dish to you the real world truth as I evolve, as we evolve. I'm your girl SantaLí, Nicole. Welcome to episode 2 of the podcast. If you're listening to the audio, thank you for tuning in. If you're watching me on YouTube, thank you for supporting. Please comment, like, and subscribe to my channel so that way you can get notified of new episodes when they drop. This is a real big one. The process that it's taken for me to prepare what I will be sharing with you today has been very difficult. Today I'll be getting into worldly love and the love of God. When we think of worldly love, we assume it's a feeling. We assume that when we meet somebody and we fall head over heels for them, it's the butterflies that we get, and we correlate that with love. Right? You're married and you have a spouse. You're not being their spouse because you love them. You are their spouse, and who you are is love. When we're able to describe what we love, it's not because we love them, it's because we love how they made us feel. When I was operating in worldly love, I was more so operating out of manipulation. I would do things because I wanted someone to feel loved instead of me being loved. Operating out of manipulation was robbing them of actually feeling loved. When we're doing the thing for the person, we're not doing it because of who they are or what they do. We're doing it because the Lord has given us love, and He has postured our hearts to love regardless of who it is or what they do or what it is, because we are love itself. Romans 12:10 says, "Love one another deeply as brothers and sisters." Take the lead in honoring one another. Loving someone is honoring them, not because of what they are in the world, but because of who God created them to be. If you know who they are through God, and you know who you are through God, you know that what they are worth is not based in the world. It's based off of who their creator is. Being in the love of God and being the love of God, you are serving and giving and not getting. When you're doing that, you're serving others, you're giving to others what God has given to you, even if they may not deserve it, even if they may not want it. That's just who you are. That's you're operating, you're being love. Love is an act, is a constant doing. It's not just a feeling that people feel. It's a constant state of being. Even if I give this, I know I'm going to get it back regardless if they give it to me or not. God gives it back to you. Most times people won't deserve it, but that doesn't change who you are and what you give. In episode 1, when I said if I couldn't see it, then I couldn't believe it, naturally I was talking about faith. Yes, faith is a substance of things that we don't see. It also was a sign into the type of love that I was operating in. Naturally, I was saying I couldn't love God because I couldn't see Him, which is not true, but it's also similar to saying that I can't love His people because they don't show me the type of love I've shown them. God had me recognize that. One, He didn't make me feel like I was condemned forever for doing that. We all make mistakes. We're not perfect people. So we generally are making mistakes in the choices that we make, in the decisions, and in the ways of life that we choose to live. If you are brought to recognize it and you intentionally choose not to do anything about it, then that's something about your character. When He revealed it to me, the type of love that I was operating in, He also revealed to me that it wasn't my fault naturally. It was because of the things that I experienced in my life that led me to believe that this is what love is. I was raised by a single mother who generally took care of everything that pertained to my younger sister and I. Both of our fathers were not in the picture. It's a normal thing in the world for the young to grow up without either father figures or mother figures, which is something that should not be normal. My mother suffered with a lot of mental illness. Mental health, we all have it. Mental health is what makes us laugh. It's what makes us get up in the morning. It's what drives us to, fulfill our purpose, to get to work, to love others, to be happy. That's what mental health is, the basis of us and our mind, body, and soul. But mental illness is the attacks of the enemy that get us to believe that we are, filled with trauma and that's just who we are. When in all actuality, it's not who we are. It's the result of what was done to us or what we experienced as a child or as a young adult and was groomed into our adulthood. I was abused. Growing up, people would normalize it and, try and make it sound like I was being disciplined. I was a kid who made mistakes. I was a kid who did things that no kid should be doing. It's understandable to have disciplined me once in a while. Most times, I was a substitute of a punching bag for my mother. When she was frustrated or angry, we would be the thing that she took that out on. That's where my whole loving someone's to the point of doing things out of an act of love, so that way they wouldn't be upset or they wouldn't feel sad or they wouldn't feel a certain type of way, and the day and everyone who was surrounded by this person could have a good day. I was already used to, being disciplined. I was used to keeping what I felt inside and not really expressing how I felt. I remember I was signed up for counseling at one point, and even going to counseling, it was not safe for me to truly express how I felt, because of the fact that when I would come out of my counseling sessions, I was hounded with questions on what I talked about. Naturally, I just would not say anything about how I felt because it would not be accepted and it would be taken out on me in a manner that I was scared for. I don't say all of this to throw my mother under the bus or, bash her for her parenting style, because it's not even her fault. Yes, she was hurt when she was younger. Yes, she had gone through so much trauma when she was younger, and because of the way that my grandmother raised her, or the way that my grandmother modeled how to be a parent in front of her, that made her believe that this is what parenting is. I don't blame my mother for the choices that she made, but now it's gotten to a point where the trauma wasn't your fault, but the healing is your responsibility. I grew up thinking that this was normal. I grew up thinking that I deserved to be beat. I deserved to get the type of beatings that I got. Growing up thinking this was normal, I grew up really just feeling like, who loves me at this point? Like, who loves me? My mom obviously doesn't love me, because if she loved me, she wouldn't be putting her hands on me this way. Like, it would hurt her to see me hurting. And that wasn't the case, because time and time again, I would still be, getting beaten and being told it was my fault. And if I cried more, that I would, me getting hit again would be my fault. This is the type of love that was modeled to me. Now, because of this, there was very few people that I trusted in my life growing up, family and friends wise. I didn't have many friends in high school or in grade school to high school. I didn't have many family members that I could trust and talk to. And those that I did, I barely really opened up in the aspect of being able to talk about every single thing that I was going through or experiencing. When I would talk about it, it would be to very few people. I did have a select few people who I did talk to, and one of them happened to be an uncle. This uncle I truly looked to as a father figure. I mean, he was there for me in times where my father wasn't or couldn't be. I looked up to him. I loved him because he always had my back. He was the fun uncle. He was the cool uncle. One of the reasons that I really clicked with him and connected with him was because of the fact that he never sugarcoated anything. That's one of the things that actually made us close, is that he would tell me things like, if you want to act like an adult, I'm going to talk to you like an adult type of way. Nothing was ever sugar-coated with him. That got me to trusting him and believing that he had my back. As I said before, I was an imperfect child, but who is a perfect human? I did things that I shouldn't have been doing. I grew to learn my lesson. I knew that what I was doing, sexting with other guys, I was basically disrespecting the temple that God has given me. I was using my body in ways that it should not have been used, which caused attention that it should not have been called for me. So because of that, I got into a situation where I was talking to an older guy and my mom had found out. Now, I already was not able to have a phone. I was not allowed to have any type of cellular device in my possession. The fact that I even had a cell phone was the first strike. The second strike and the third strike were the things that I was talking about with this person. At the time, it felt right because this person was giving me attention that I wasn't getting at home. This person was giving me affirmation in which I never received from my father or my mother. The way that my mother would talk to me left me feeling as if I was not loved by her. So it's like nothing I ever did could be enough for her. Talking to this person, he made it seem like I was enough being myself. When I got caught, there was this whole intervention of what had happened. My aunt and my uncle were both invited to this intervention. They both seen with their own eyes what it was that I was into. I was angry because their perspectives on me as their, family was like being changed. Like, okay, she's not as innocent as we thought. And then I was angry at the fact that my mom was the person who told them. They saw I was punished. I, did my time. I still wasn't able to have a phone, but because I knew I had plans over the weekend, I took back the phone. I was like, okay, this is my only chance, to just have it. And, I didn't revert back to what I was doing before. I just wanted the phone because I had friends that I wanted to talk to. I just wanted to feel normal because in no way, shape, or form did I feel normal. I felt like I was older than all the people that I surrounded myself with. I felt more mature in a way that I didn't even know what being a kid was. So being able to have a phone and being able to connect with people my age was nice for me. I had plans to sleep over at this uncle's house and stay with some cousins who happened to be his kids. When I got to the house and I realized that they weren't actually going to come over, I started to just come up with other plans. I knew that my godmother had lived down the street, and I was like, oh, I definitely will have more fun at her house than I will being here by myself with him. Like, yes, I was close with him, but after the whole intervention that happened, I didn't even feel comfortable being alone with him because I knew that he would look at me, they looked at me differently. I was like, I can go down the street, I can hang out with her. And that's when he came out with a drink in his hand, and he's like, here, drink this. And I was like, oh, okay. Of course he saw me with the phone, so that was like the first thing. I was like, oh, like now I'm caught and he's gonna tell my mom. And of course he brought it up. He was like, are you supposed to have that? And I was like, no. That was when I was like, please don't say anything. I don't want to get in trouble again because my mom's gonna hit me. And I started freaking out because now he knows he's gonna tell my mom, and my mom's gonna find out and she's gonna beat me. Okay. So I started drinking what it was that he gave me in the cup, and it's full of alcohol. Like, my body got drunk quicker than my mind got drunk. I don't know if that makes sense. I'm thinking, oh wow, this is really strong. Like, I'm not gonna be able to drink this. And I was only taking sips. He had went outside for a bit. When he came back in from outside, he had said, like, you're babysitting it. And I was already feeling like this is not a drink that I want to drink. It's too strong. It tastes nasty. It has my body feeling tingly. I don't really want to drink this. I was like taking baby sips. When he said the whole, you're babysitting it, I was like prideful. I was like, no, I'm not. And I chugged it. For me, chugging it is when the effect of my body tingling went into like full effect. I could completely feel my body just go like out. My body just got really heavy. There was something on the TV and I was trying to like focus it because I was like, what is going on? So I was trying to focus on what was on the TV and I couldn't even keep my eyes open. I was like, there's no way that I got this drunk off of one drink. I don't even recall feeling sick. All I could remember is my body just feeling really heavy. My body feeling really drowsy. And so I told him, I'm fine. I'm really tired. From this moment, I really didn't have any control over my body. I didn't have any control over, keeping my head up, keeping my eyes open, let alone walking up any stairs. He one-armed me up the stairs, tried to get me to the bathroom because he said I was looking sick. I remember it was like bits and pieces of me getting up the stairs. I can remember my feet kind of dragging because of how heavy my body was feeling. I remember us getting up the stairs. Then we got to the bathroom and I was sitting on the toilet, and I remember sitting on the toilet trying to look up to him. As I'm looking up to him, I'm thinking in my head, or thinking I'm saying out loud, I'm tired. I just remember saying, I'm tired. I just want to lay down. And then I hear the bath water turning on. And I don't want to take a bath. I'm fine. I hate this part. For years, I worked to bury these memories because of the fact that every time I would think about them, every time they would pop into my head, my body would freeze and get so tense. I would lose myself in that moment. I would go to another world because it was just so scary to be inside of my body. He undressed me because I couldn't undress myself, and put me in that bathtub and tried to take me a bath. I just kept saying no, stop, because I was a kid, and the fact that he saw my private areas and I couldn't cover them made me so uncomfortable. I didn't even let my own mother see me naked. I couldn't. So I sat in the tub with my knees to my chest and my arms wrapped so tight around me. I had an out-of-body experience. I was standing at the door of the bathroom screaming, no. I was screaming for someone to hear me, to stop this. I did not want to be in that tub. I did not even want to be in that house. This is why I don't even talk about this. It's so scary. I had no control over my body. So even if I wanted to get away, I couldn't. And he turns on the shower, which forces my body to stand up, and I'm leaning on the shower wall, and I hear the shower curtain open up from behind. As I turn around to see what it is, seeing him in the shower with me naked, I was shaking, and what I saw happening, I wish I hadn't seen. I was I couldn't even think in that moment. My brain stopped thinking. I felt disgusted. I felt disgusted with myself. I felt dirty. What did I do to deserve this? What did I do to deserve being treated like this? I thought about it for so long. What could I have possibly done to get that done to me? Was it because I acted in a way to get attention from my boys? Was it because of what I wore? Because of what I said in those text messages? I gave him the wrong impression of me. For so long I hated myself because I blamed me for what happened to me. I couldn't be happy, even if I tried to be. I self-sabotaged for so long after that happened. When I first woke up the next morning, it was like it never happened. There are other things I remembered too, but the fact that when I woke up the next morning, he said, I won't tell your mom about the phone. I won't tell your mom about the phone. After that, I was like, it was my fault. I did everything I could to just not be that person again. If I wasn't such a bad kid, if I wasn't such a fast girl, if I wasn't this, if I wasn't that, then none of this would have happened to me. I didn't even think about God. Because at this point I was like, he's not thinking about me. He doesn't love me enough because he's allowing me to experience this. He obviously doesn't love me because of what I've done. I'm so ugly. I'm so ugly. Not just on the outside, but on the inside, I was so ugly. I never said anything. I kept quiet about it. I truly believed that it was my fault what happened to me. Everything that ever happened to me was my fault. I got angry with myself, and I wasn't looking to college because at this point I was done with my life. Like, I already had tried to commit suicide about 3 times, which is why, after I graduated high school, I enlisted in the military, because I was like, this is what I deserve. Like, I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I truly did not want to live. I didn't want to live, so I didn't have a plan after high school. And that was the only option that, presented itself, so I went with it and ran. You can't run from the past. You truly cannot run from the past, because it will show up in you or through you in your life. And at some point, it's going to catch up to you to the point where you can't ignore it. You have to face it. At this point, I was reintroduced to God, so I had an idea of God being with me, and I believe that at some rate he loved me, even though I did these things, even though I was this horrible person, even though I was dirty and ugly. Like, he still loved me. I tried to keep as close as I could to him. Trauma will have you thinking something that isn't right for you is okay. Like, there's a difference between peace and quiet. You could have peace that even in times of chaos, even in times of disruption, you still have a peace that okay, what's going on around me, it doesn't reflect what's going on in me. Quiet is being quiet even when something is wrong. So even when your environment is unhealthy or is toxic, you choose to be quiet about it because it's comfortable and it's safe for you. Anything outside of it that's different is crazy. It's crazy to know. Which is where I was at that point in my life. When I got out of the hospital for about the 3rd time is when I was proposed to. So this person really must really love me, because they've seen me in my darkest of times. So this must be real love. This may not be who I am, but this is what I am right now. And they're choosing to love me. They're choosing to make a decision where we spend the rest of our life together. I really thought this was love. This person would soon become an idol to me, because I loved this person before God. I did not pray. I would not go to church. I was not into any of that around this time. And it wasn't this person's fault. I'm not blaming this person for any of this. This was truly just who I was in this time on the inside. This is the time where I'm going through my awakening, so I'm starting to recognize the role that I'm playing in this, and what around me and what has happened to me, how it's starting to show up and starting to play in my life at that time. This feels too familiar. A moment that showed itself to be unhealthy, or familiar to what I grew up in, I ran away from it. I left. When I finally make the decision to leave, I've already left emotionally, mentally, and spiritually at that point. Every part of me, every aspect of me has already checked out. I was convinced I loved this person because they saw me through my darkest times. We had already been through so much together. It wasn't even a matter of money, because we were broke. We were without a house for a while and still, getting through it together. It was through those times where the character started to show, of who we truly were. I was not feeling it. I wanted to be a wife, yes. I wanted to have a family, yes. But the way that I was going for that was the wrong way. Every step was showing that. Every step I was taking, every step we were taking together was showing this was not it. The life that I envisioned myself having was not going to concur in the path that I was taking. At this time, this is when I started growing in God, it started with me recognizing Him in my life. Like, I had to recognize Him from the enemy. I had to recognize what was God and what was the enemy. Then started to recognize who He was and what came with Him. Like, what was God? What wasn't God? Once I started learning who God was and growing in His love, I can now confidently say that I have the love of God because, one, I didn't become a product of what hurt me, and two, I can take responsibility and I can take accountability for the part that I played in. I can extend the grace. I was very conflicted to talk about this. I was very conflicted to speak on it, on the abuse that I encountered for many years, the molestation that happened to me at a young age, even the things that I did as a kid, like, that I felt shameful for, I felt, guilt and embarrassed for. I was going back and forth about, do I keep quiet about what's happened and not say anything to not bring, division or conflict? Even if I was guilty in certain situations where I played the bad guy in somebody's story, or if I was wronged in another time, it doesn't matter. I've taken responsibility for my actions. I've taken responsibility for the roles that I played. So in doing that, I've also acknowledged I may be looked at wrong for the decisions that I've made. I don't identify as those decisions. I don't identify as who I was in those moments, because I know that's not who I am now. Who I was in that time was a result of what I had gone through. And I was fluctuating with my emotions and the situations and the people to the point where I was creating this person that I thought I needed to be. That doesn't take away from what I've done, because I know I've hurt people. I know I've disappointed people. I know I've let people down. What I've gone through, it doesn't disqualify me. It's what qualifies me. What I've gone through, God has allowed me to go through, because now I can sit here and on this show I can air myself out, so that way you can see that He really is a graceful God. He brought somebody who was nothing in the eyes of everyone else, and even in my own eyes. He made something out of me. He made something through me. So what I thought disqualified me because of all the shameful things I did, or actually what qualified me to be able to sit here in front of you and say that you are not what these things have made you to be. What I have gone through, I've gone through, and now I can sit here and talk about it and how God has brought me through it to help you recognize that you don't have to do it on your own, that you are not alone when you're going through it, and that there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. I'm not expecting an apology. I'm not expecting anyone to feel bad for me. I just want people to know that what has happened to me, it hurt me, but it did not break me. Also, to get people to recognize and acknowledge that it should not be normal. The things that we as the minority go through as kids and grow up in should not be normalized. When does it end? When do we as young adults or even adults start to recognize, I can stop this if I decide to stop it? I don't have to continue the cycle of abusing my kids. I don't have to continue the cycle of allowing molestation or rape, or I don't have to keep allowing this cycle of depression to take over my life. I don't have to keep allowing this, or I don't have to keep allowing that in my life. You're only setting the younger generation up for failure. They don't need to sit here and be the backlash of what we neglected to take care of ourselves. When I've really started to recognize that I have the love of God in me, and that I am love itself, when I start to pray for those who inflicted pain on me, for those who betrayed me, for those who hurt me, when you start to pray for them, you start to hope for them. And you can only do so much, because closed mouths don't get fed. If you are closed mouth yourself, and you aren't praying for yourself, and you aren't praying to Jesus. That's the God that I pray to. In case we have any new people who haven't watched my first episode, Jesus is my God. So if you're not praying to God and asking him for these things for yourself, my prayer can only work so much. It doesn't stop me, because I'm honoring who they are as people of God. So I'm doing my part. The purpose in me speaking about what I've been through, and the purpose that God has given me and talking about this so openly, is so that light can be shed on it, so that his light can be shown through it. I am able to speak life against the death that the enemy tried to bring into me and onto me through what has happened in my life. By me speaking about this and being open about it, is showing my faith in God. That even speaking about it, no matter what happens, no matter who sees this, I'm not afraid of any person, because who can be against me when I have God in my corner? I may be someone who experienced these things. I am not these things. When he revealed the emotions, he also revealed that they were becoming idols. I remember countless nights where I would cry myself to sleep, and I would just replay that night over and over in my head. And it became an idol, to where I was more focused on what happened and the details and what I was feeling from it, over what God could do for me, over God has already declared victory over it for me, that I was going to get through it. I already had victory because I lived through it. And when he revealed to me that I was allowing my emotions of what happened to become idols, which, if anyone knows what idols are, it's anything that you put first before your obedience to God. For most people, it could be drugs, or it could be gambling, or it could be a person, place, or thing. It could be sex, it could be pornography, it could be money, it could be other gods, anything that is before your obedience of God. Shifting my magnifying glass from what I had been feeling and going through to him made what I was going through smaller and him bigger. And by amplifying God in my life, I was able to see the different perspectives of what I had gone through. So instead of looking at it from the glass is half empty, I saw it from the glass is half full. Slowly but surely changed my mindset. I wasn't depressed. I wasn't angry. I was able to release it and allow love in. Loving myself again. I was learning to be the embodiment of love. And by learning that standard, by learning that who God is and the standard that he sets, recognize, yes, I was hurt, but I'm not broken. And even when I was broken, God gracefully put me back together. When I face another hardship, because I was gracefully put back together the first time, I recognize that it doesn't have to affect me the same way it did before. Hard times don't have to get to me the same way they did before. Proverbs 24:29 tells us, don't say, I'll do to him what he did to me. I'll repay a man for what he has done. Through the transparency, I'm able to acknowledge that I'm not what has hurt me. So I don't need to get revenge. I don't need to get back at these people. I don't need to punish these people for what they've done, because I'm not them. I don't want to become another version of who hurt me. I also have learned in this that keeping quiet does more harm than good. If I keep quiet, I'm only hurting myself, and that's not loving myself. And I have to love myself before I can go and love others, because loving others is a result of being overflowed with love within yourself. This is why God tells us not to get revenge, because God sees everything. God knows everything. God knows every detail of what happens to us, every detail of who has hurt us. When he gets his revenge, he's going to get it justly. He's going to weigh the heart. He's going to know what happened, whether it's admitted to or not. And when he weighs the heart, that's how they'll be judged. And when he gets his revenge, he says that it'll be the revenge that they deserve. Now, if we try to take revenge in our own hands, we're only hurting ourselves. Proverbs 18:5 tells us, it is not good to show partiality to the guilty, denying an innocent person justice. So stepping out from the pain, stepping out from the trauma, stepping out from the hurt and the emotions that came with all of that I've experienced, I can look at it from the lens of God. I can look at it from the perspective of his perfect will, and understanding it from his understanding, because his thoughts are not our thoughts. His understanding is higher than our understanding. In that, it's brought me to a level of maturity where I'm able to recognize I may not have been the reason for some of the hurt that happened to me, but the healing is my responsibility. I may not have caused some of the things that happened, and I may have caused some of the things that happened, but regardless, healing it is my responsibility. I'm not going to be a person who continues to bleed on people who didn't cut me or hurt somebody else because I'm hurt. I don't want to continue that cycle, because that's another unhealthy, toxic cycle that we think is normal. And the decision to not continue those cycles is where God began to shift me from operating in worldly love to his love. Matthew 5:44 tells us, "But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, so that you may be children of your Father in heaven." And growing in his love has gotten me to a point where even if it's hard to love someone who doesn't deserve it, I'm still able to extend that love, because regardless if it's given back to me or reciprocated, I'm still receiving it, because I'm not running to a person to give it to me. I'm running to God to give it to me. And he's endless. He's eternal. He's infinite. He gives it to me all the time, even when I don't deserve it or even when I don't ask. I'm getting it straight from him. Just because somebody hurt me, it doesn't change who I am as a person. 6:12 tells us, for our struggles, Ephesians 6:12 tells us, for our struggles is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers of this darkness, against evil spiritual forces in heavens. This was the wisdom that I needed to help me understand why I went through what I went through. It's not the person that is doing it, it's the thing that's in them. It's the thing that's influencing them to do it to you. The devil knows that you have an anointing on you. The enemy knows that you have something that God has placed in you, and he doesn't want you to get to it. He doesn't want you to recognize it. He doesn't want you to walk in it. He's going to do and influence whoever he needs to in order to conflict you in getting there, or keep you from reaching that point in which you need to reach for God to work through you. You know, God comforted me and recognizing that he never left me. I was able to get through it. I was able to survive it. I was able to now sit here and speak about it. I survived it. I'm able to sit here and talk about it openly, regardless of the backlash that may come with it, because I know that the culture that I grew in, it's bad to talk about your business in public. But these are the things that I said in my first episode that I was going to talk about, because these are things that we consider normal today that should not be normal. I'm not doing this to air out other people's business. I'm not doing this to cause conflict. I'm doing this because I don't want my kids, when I have my kids, I don't want my kids to have to not only face what goes on in the world, because we can't control what other people do in the world, but we can start with controlling how we react in the world, right? I don't want what I had to experience to be what they experienced. I don't want what I thought was normal to be normal for them. I don't want the anger of the abuse that I experienced to be a result of the love that they get from me. I want to love them for who they are and who God created them to be. It's already a scary thing to know that some of the people in the world are monsters, that they do things that are meant to destroy people, that are meant to kill people, that are meant to steal attributes from us as people to fulfill, the enemy's agenda. For those evils to be in your family, for those evils to be in your own house, is what I don't want to be normal when I start my family. And with this wisdom, I'm able to recognize it's not worth getting anxious about. It's not worth getting angry about. It's not worth becoming what is trying to destroy me. The end result for that is death. The end result for that is destruction. You don't have peace in destroying another person's life. You don't have peace in creating misery in another person's life. If I could leave you with any piece of advice, is love even when it's hard. Love when no one else wants to do it. Be love. Practice being love. I appreciate you for listening and tuning in, and thank you for the love and support that I have gotten so far in the start of this journey. God bless all of you. I will see you guys next time on Godly Woman with a Purpose.